Hello, everyone. I am Shivani Mehta, your host, and you have tuned into the Project IMG podcast, the voice of international medical graduates. Today, I have a guest who is an IMG from a Caribbean medical school who matched into family medicine in the United States. So, from studying in the Caribbean to working as an upcoming PGY1 resident, in Cooper University Hospital in New Jersey, I present to you Dr. Esha Jain. Welcome, Dr. Jain.
Thank you so much for having me. It's truly a pleasure to be able to not only share my experiences, but help others navigate this time. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for taking the time out to come and talk to our listeners and provide us with all the advice and wonderful tips and tricks of navigating our way through the USMLE journey and even the match process. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Okay, so I want to start with asking you to tell us more about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So a little bit about me. Born and raised in Toronto, Canada, in a diverse community. I am very privileged and lucky to have had my father, who's a physician. And I think his contributions to the medical community, along with my own environmental surroundings, really drew me towards medicine. Apart from that, I decided to do my bachelor's in biology at Western University in London. And then after that, I pursued my medical degree at AUA. I graduated April 2021. Since then, I've been doing a lot in the medical world. I've been invested in my research, in patient advocacy. I have written my step 3. I successfully went through the interview season and matched. And I'm currently scribing for a pediatrician and just enjoying what life has to offer before, it's a little bit going to be overwhelming. But for me, something that is kind of true to my core is that I drew upon a lot of my father's experiences and his immigration from India to Canada to pursue medicine. And I think that that's one of the things that are in me. I am too trying to pursue medicine in the States and immigrate and find my way in family medicine. So that's just a little bit about me.
That's amazing. Thank you. So you said that you mainly take inspiration from your father. Is that what sparked your interest in medicine?
I really do think that he had a prominent role. I will say there was one time when he had a house call pre-COVID, and the care that he had provided, the patients had just left such a sincere note and gift for him. And it was at that moment in time, I really saw how impactful a doctor can really have, not in the lives of the patient, but the family as well. Another thing that really drew me was actually my grandfather. He was diagnosed with stage 4 gastric cancer, but he survived. And it was really all due to the detailed analysis of the family doctor who caught the disease at a curable stage, did all the tests, and really liaison between different specialties. And when I asked my grandfather today, why are you with the same family doctor for more than 20 years? He goes, it's that true, trusting, long-lasting relationship that he has forged with his family physician. And I think that moment really brought to me how comforting and how impactful I could have and the role I could have in medicine.
That's amazing. Like, it's always interesting to see why people go into medicine, what sparked that initial interest, and because it's a long journey, it's not a simple journey either. So you constantly need that level of motivation to keep you going and look back at okay, this is why I started this journey in the first place, right? So It's always interesting to hear about that. Thank you so much for sharing it. Can you give us a brief overview of your journey? So how you navigated from going, you said that you went to London for undergraduate, then you went to the Caribbean for medical school, and then you matched into the United States. So how did you, just as a brief overview, how did you even plan that whole journey out?
So when I say London, I mean London, Ontario, which is in Canada. So not the UK. It wasn't that far away.
Sorry.
No. That's a common mistake. But yeah, actually, I think I really wanted to make sure, like you said, that medicine was the right choice for me, because as you said, it is a long journey. You really have to commit to this profession. You will not see the fruits of your labor until a decade later. So the reason I pursued a bachelor's degree, I wanted to see if medicine was the choice for me. While biology didn't have all of the medical courses, it really helped me eliminate which fields I didn't want. After doing my college, I still was sure about medicine, but I also wanted to make sure that this was really the fit for me. I had written the MCAT, but I guess it wasn't competitive enough for Canada. And hindsight is 2020. I wish I had applied directly to the medical system itself, but I knew that I wanted to pursue medicine in the States. And I knew a lot of my peers had gone the Caribbean route, which allowed them to have that US clinical experience. So after doing my biology degree, I immediately basically applied to medical school, and I went for a year. In 2014, I went to AUA, I was admitted. And when I first got there, I definitely was not ready for medical school. I think for us to be the best physician we can be, we have to be mentally, physically, spiritually well fit, well-minded. Everything has to kind of just be in check, because medical school, residency, and thereafter is a grueling time. So I did a year there, and I realized I wasn't performing my best academically. I had directly approached the dean of my school, and I told him, I'm like, look, these are not my grades. These are not who I am. But I don't think that right now is the best time for me to continue my journey. And having that level of honesty and acknowledgement of my own difficulties, I took a year off, went home, and that's really when I confirmed that medicine was a choice for me. I like to say this a lot, but nothing worth having comes easy. And seeing how hard my father had worked to make his dreams come true, I really drew upon that experience. So I revisited AUA back in 2016. And I succeeded. I excelled ever since. And I came in with that mentality that this is your goal, Esha, and whatever you do, you will commit your mind to doing it and you will get it done. I excelled so much that I became a medical tutor, a TA. I tutored biochem, neuro, cell bio. And this let me really grow a passion for clinical education and something that I would want to do in my future as a family physician. I was able to graduate, no problem. And then, the road would kind of hit another bump, right? And that's life. We always have bumps. And I went through the match season, and hindsight was 2020. I think I just applied too early. I really wasn't as well-rounded of an applicant as I am today. And so I used that year to really fortify myself and show in my application my passions for family medicine. So yeah, that's just a little bit about the road.
That's amazing. Like, you just listening to your journey, it's already inspirational enough for me, because like you went through and you hit hurdles and you still overcame them, went back, worked on yourself, and decided to move forward. And that is such an important skill. And I admire you for having that. So thank you.
I appreciate it, but I think that medicine builds that resilience in everybody, and that's all that really matters. Like, we continue to have that resilience and carry it forward through all our endeavors.
No, that's true. And like, as I said before, like medicine is a marathon, right? Like, it's not just the USMLE journey. We like to say it about that, but like medicine itself is a marathon. It's like, just because you're done with it, even when you graduate, it's still not done, because it's a field of lifelong learning. So it's never the end, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's amazing to hear this. So taking a quick, like a side note in a way, did you have any hobbies or anything that you believed helped you get through this journey? And is there anything that maybe even helped your application with regards to like hobbies or anything that you did on the side?
Actually, I personally have a lot of hobbies. I'm also, again, very lucky that my mom put me into all of these sports growing up. So I'm very lucky I had that opportunity. But some of the hobbies that like I still do today is I play the piano, and so much so that now I love to teach how to play the piano. And that goes in accordance to my passion for clinical education. I actually was a soccer varsity person. I made the soccer team for my Western, for my university college. But during my frosh week in my freshman year, I was unfortunately hit by a car. So I kind of lost the scholarship opportunity, but it kind of moved me into pursuing medicine and that avenue of sports medicine. It really opened my eyes. But other than that, one of my longest and truest passions and hobbies has been Indian classical dance. I have done that since I was 3. I graduated officially, became a teacher for dance. And even now, when I am under stress or studying for step 3, I put on the music and I just create my own little dance marathon thing. And it really grounds me. And I think these were just some of the things I put on my application, but I really listed everything I did. Poetry, something that I did because I published poetry. I was passionate about that. And that's a great way for people to know that you are more than just medicine and that you have other things outside of medicine that you can rely on when it is a stressful time. Yeah. Do these stand out? I did get asked a lot about soccer. I did get asked about my poetry and Indian classical dance. So yeah. And I was able to talk about it in a way that really allowed me to show my passions in medicine. And not only that, but just who I am outside of medicine. So yeah.
I really liked what you just said, that like it showed you as a person that's not just about medicine. And that is important because sometimes when we're going through this journey, all we're thinking is medicine, 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 whether it's like USMLE matching into medicine, like anything. And that's all we have in our mind. And it's important to realize that PDs want to see that you are also somebody outside of medicine. Like they want to see that well-roundedness.
Exactly.
So I'm really happy you brought that up. Thank you.
No problem. No, but it's actually so true because in times of stress in residency and things that I've noticed, we can never know how stressful it's going to be, but we can only just prepare ourselves to be the balanced applicant or the balanced physician that we can be. And I feel like that's what our hobbies are meant for, right? You know, they ground us. They show us what our passions are outside of that laser focus, which we should have too.
That's true. So you mentioned that you went to the Caribbean, you hit a hurdle, and then you went back and you succeeded, right? So what would be your advice to students who are in medical school right now and maybe struggling?
Right. Okay. Yeah. It's tough. Like, I personally can say that my struggles were tough. And the best thing that I did was seek help because I cannot do this journey on my own. I have never done this journey on my own. Yes, studying for exams was all my own brain and stuff. But one thing that I didn't do the first time I went to the Caribbean versus the second time was really ask for help, whether it was my family, my friends, or the faculty at AUA. Reaching out for assistance and letting people know I have a weak moment is okay, because once you acknowledge it, now you can do something about it. So medical school, residency, wherever, there will always be a struggle. And for me, I thought, my struggles were over. I accomplished them in medical school. I had that year leave of absence, but no, I had another struggle with going unmatched. But I was able to deal with that without that same kind of depressed mental attitude that I had before. So I think just know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Always ask for help, always try to get help, and know that this does not define you. Just because you're struggling now, it does not define who you are as a person, I think. Yeah, that's just a little advice.
Oh, that's amazing because, as students, we constantly drive ourselves to do better. We always feel like we're not enough. We're not doing enough. And that is, I think, I can say that we can attribute it to our type A personality because we're so used to being competitive and constantly wanting to do better and better and better that sometimes we need to take a step back. And if we hit a hurdle, not be so hard on ourselves.
Exactly.
Right? Mm-hmm. So, sorry, go ahead.
No, exactly. Be kind to yourself. That's the most important thing because this is stressful regardless.
That's true. So once you went back to school and you found your footing, so then after that, how did you plan out your USMLE journey? Because that's something that all of us are struggling with, and we also get extremely tense about, right? Because it is an exam that will basically define our careers almost.
Right, right. Yeah, like you said, unfortunately, scores sometimes, define what kind of specialty we can apply to. I think for me, my USMLE journey was kind of set by my school. They had a schedule as to when we should take our step one, step two, and then step three was on us. So after my first two basic sciences years, we had to write step one within 2 months. Do I think that that was enough time? Personally, I would have preferred 3 months. I always like to do 2 months of dedicated studying time, which means about 10 to 12 hours of my day just to studying, and then maybe taking a half day break sometime during the week. The months before my dedicated studying time were during my my basic sciences years. So I would recommend that people start to get a hang of first aid and UWorld, and really, actually, first aid was my Bible for step one. So really get that going in your USMLE journey from the beginning. Read that book from front to back, like as many times as you can, and then practice, apply it with the questions. So I had to write mine 2 months after my basic sciences years. Then I did clinicals. And then we again had to write our step 2 months after finishing our clinical year. So we didn't really have much of a leeway in terms of postponing it or something like that. But yeah, that's just what else can I answer about my USMLE journey?
Okay, so you said that you used first aid. First aid seems to be a favorite, and everybody seems to be saying that UWorld, first aid, and Pathoma seem to be the go-to. Is there anything else you would recommend?
I personally use Boards and Beyond videos. I personally prefer them to Pathoma. I think that they gave a lot of a great detailed review for each subject. I did not use Sketchy Micro. I know a lot of my friends and peers did use it. And I recommend that if you're going to do a Sketchy, whether it's microfarm, start it in the beginning, because that requires a lot of repetition in order for you to really solidify those concepts. One thing that I did use was the USMLE RxQ Bank and Anki Deck. If you do use Anki Deck, same thing with the Sketchy, start from the beginning, because reviewing those flashcards from the beginning towards the end is the best way for me that I thought to help build that memory. What else did I use for step one? Well, for step two, I used first aid, but I ended up doing a course. So I paid for a course, and I think that that's what helped me. I think overall, I'm an average test taker. I'm not like the super best or the super worst, but I think what's important is that everybody has a different learning strategy, and you have to really find out which one is yours. I am an audiovisual learner, and I know that I like to write stuff out, and that's how I memorize things. And I think the most important thing in anybody's USMLE journey is figure out what kind of learner you are, what learning style you need, and then apply that to your work. One thing that I did enjoy and that helped me was teaching others. So not only was I a tutor, but I helped my friends. Like, I would teach them concepts and they would teach me concepts. And I think that that's something that people should utilize too. Just that sort of application.
No, that makes sense, because especially when you said that you were teaching your friends and they were teaching it back, you can't teach something until you know the material really, really well. So
there you go.
That's amazing advice right there. Okay, so let's move a little ahead. Once you took your step one and step two and you started applying to schools, how did you go about that? Whether you want to talk about your first time around or the second time?
So yeah, the first time around, I really did not apply broadly. And I think that's how I shot myself in the foot, kind of thing. I did not apply to family medicine. Actually, I initially applied to emergency medicine. And I personally did not apply to any other specialties. I think that for some people, they apply to one specialty. Some people dual apply. I personally think that dual applying is important, because for me, what I want to do in family medicine applies to both emergency medicine and family medicine. The missing link for me was that those longitudinal connections, and I didn't get that in emergency medicine. So the second time around, and after going through my gap year and really figuring out what my passions were, I knew I had to apply broadly. So I did not apply emergency medicine. I mainly applied family medicine everywhere. And then I did add some transitional year programs. But I think the best thing that I did was, like I said, like 5 times already, apply broadly and research each program. Each program has different requirements for your scores. I've used Residency Explorer and Frida. Those were the ones that I used to really navigate, but Residency Explorer was the one that I used mainly. But some programs will have cutoffs for step 1 and step 2, like 220, for example. Maybe you don't meet that step score. But for me, there was one program that had a certain step score for step 2 that I did not meet, but I had my step 3. So I still applied to that program thinking that, okay, maybe I can still shoot my shot. So I sent a letter of interest. I said, I didn't ever address the, I don't meet your scores, but I have my step 3. This is my application. Here's my letter of interest. And during that interview, the PD actually told me, before you join this residency, we need every single person to have had done their step 3. So while I did not meet some of the cutoffs that they say on Residency Explorer, I still, there was other areas of my app that stood out. And so I still applied to out of reach schools that I didn't think I could get. Really do your research, really do your homework, see where you fit, and have a list of out of reach schools that you'll make the cutoffs for, and then your backup.
Okay, that's actually amazing advice, because there's one thing I really like that you said, because usually people are like, oh yeah, abide by the cutoffs and just make sure you apply whatever schools that you think that you can get into. Like,
right.
Apply broadly, yes, but like do it within the cutoff range. And if you as it said, like if you don't try, you will never know, right?
Exactly.
So I found that advice to be extremely helpful. So like,
and actually there was like some specialty, like I was, you can apply to it and you don't meet their cutoffs, but for me, I got interviews from programs that I didn't meet their cutoffs for, but because I had such a well-rounded app or other areas of patient advocacy or research or academia or something that really made up for it, and I still shot my shot and I got an interview. And, that's just the grind, I guess, or putting yourself out there kind of thing.
That's really good advice, because honestly, a lot of students, I think, are hesitant to put themselves out there, especially when they kind of sort of know that, oh, okay, I'm probably not going to fit their criteria, at least the criteria that they've given on different platforms like Residency Explorer and things like that. So that's actually really nice advice. Thank you. So what is your advice for people who have red flags on their application? How do you suggest they should address them?
So I personally addressed a red flag in my first time in my personal statement, and I advise against this. I don't think that your personal statement is the place to address a red flag, unless, in my mind, it's a red flag that has spurred you to really like creating immense impact in the medical field or something like that. But my year of leave of absence, I did not address it in my personal statement. I don't suggest that you address it. They will see your red flags, and if they want to ask about it in the interview, they will ask about it. Use your space, use your application, all this time to show your best self off. Don't be modest, because you gotta be the best version of yourself on paper, at least. Red flags, how do you address them? So in the interview, I acknowledged it. I said, okay, last year, hindsight was 2020. I did not, and I was not the best applicant that I know I can be, but here's what I did since. And here's what I continue to do. And here's what I hope to bring to your program. So I think that if you have a very nice outline and you address it, because you know what, we all have red flags. We don't all have a perfect life. Like, that's not what makes a great physician anyways. So, but being able to know where you went wrong and how you can do better and what you have done to do better is really important in addressing any red flags, I think.
That's like, I'm really liking the way you're stating certain things, because it's like a literally, like, in one sentence, you're stating a very important thing that needs to be addressed. And sometimes it's not always addressed.
So yeah, just to clarify, what we were saying is when we are applying, and when I say apply broadly, also be sure to check your own application, really evaluate, okay, your year of graduation, your step scores. A 210 will not get you dermatology. I'm sorry. But these are certain things that you have to be introspective about and have that insight into. And my best advice is not just to use Residency Explorer and Frida, but actually go to the residency's own website and see what their cutoffs are. Sometimes, like I said, some programs are flexible where they will take you even if you don't meet their cutoff, but some programs are not. If your year of graduation is not according to their standard, then that's a thing. So don't waste your money, apply broadly, but apply smart.
Okay, that's amazing advice. Thank you. So let's move on a little further and talk about research. Research is something that has been coming up again and again, and everybody tends to go a little crazy about it because everybody knows that now you need to have a more diverse application. You need to have more things to add to your application to make yourself a stronger candidate, right? So research happens to be one of those. What do you think? Do you think research is a necessity to have on your application? And if so, then how do you suggest students apply with a publication or a research component to their application?
Okay, yeah, great question. I personally think that research is very important. It is not a necessity to match. There are many people that have zero research, but go on and match in their top programs. That being said, I think research is so important, and why residencies look at it is because, especially in academic programs, you are going to be presenting cases weekly. You're going to be presenting patient cases to your attending daily. You are not only doing that, you're teaching medical students. So research and having that academic skill is so important when you bring it to the resident. Such a valuable skill set, because not only are you bringing it to the hospital, but now you're representing your hospital when you go to conferences. So they want to see that you are well-versed. I personally think it's a great skill set to have. I initially did it for the skill, right? I didn't really have that passion initially when I first got into research. The way I did it was I asked friends and family friends who were physicians, anybody willing to mentor me to just get me on board. So I started out then, and that was in my basic sciences years. But then it really just died down. Laser focus, USMLE journey, let's do that. But during my clinical sciences years is when I think is the best time and exposure for anybody and everybody who's interested in research to get their hands on it. The easiest way I found to start were case reports. So if you are taking the initiative, go to your research department in the hospital, talk to your attending or any preceptor that you have, let them know you are interested in research and you're interested in writing up a case report, and let them know that you're interested and how they can include you. So that's really how I got started. In my neurology elective, I approached my attending, and at this point in time, I didn't know whether I was going to match or not. I was likely not going to match. I had 2 interviews. So I was like, okay, I need to get more diversity. She let me know of 2 interesting cases that she thought that would be great to write up. I wrote them up. I was the first author. I took on a lot of the legwork. I did everything that I needed to do, all while learning really for the first time how to write a full case report. And I think that that's what's really important too, is to not only have the research, but have the first authorship and be able to show that you developed a passion in academia. So one thing that I did was not only just do the research, but then I saw, okay, I'm going to join a team. How can I really evolve this passion? Because case reports is just one aspect of research. It's not everything. There's quality improvement projects. There's systematic reviews, there's literature reviews, everything, right? Meta-analysis. So when I did join this team, and I talked a little bit about it on my profile, but I was able to connect with so many like-minded people who had other skill sets in other avenues. And that's how I learned how to do a systematic review, because I never knew how to do that before. I never knew how to do a meta-analysis. And so when I was able to do that and really get my footing, I decided that I was good at, well, I didn't decide. I was good enough that somebody let me lead one of the family medicine research teams. And so I say this, but I don't know if it's being at the right place or the right time, or I was just lucky, but I put in a lot of hard work to show that I was well-versed. And so I was able to become a leader of this group of over 300 people and really teach people how to, do research or how to properly reference research. Sorry, there was a second part to your question. I forgot.
So because a lot of students, you said mainly that the best time to get into research is during your clinical years. So that's great advice, but also a lot of our listeners are international medical graduates. Mm-hmm. So how do you suggest they find research opportunities, and or if they can't find them, then how can they get publications?
So whether you are in your home country or you're in America, I think if you're looking to find research positions in America, go on LinkedIn, type in the search bar, research coordinator, research position, go into Google and look at the research. Just type in, research coordinator position at Johns Hopkins and see what is there, a research position at Beth Israel. See if you apply everywhere. This is your time. Like, you have to send 70, 80 emails to hear one yes, right? Wherever you are, if you can get exposure to a physician, even if you're not in the clinical setting, somebody willing to take you on board, that I feel like is the best way for somebody to get involved. I personally am open to helping others too. But I also, I don't know how foreign graduates can really do that, I guess, in their setting, and then maybe apply to certain places in the States.
Okay.
Yeah. Or if they can, attend conferences, even if research is not something that they can get into, maybe try to attend certain conferences where you can network with others and then get that in, be like, hey, I'm very interested in academia. Let me work with you, or something like that. I think, yeah, that would be a great idea, maybe.
So I think it's mainly important to recognize that there are a lot of people trying to apply for different research positions. And just because you might not hear back from certain programs and things like that, that doesn't mean that you get discouraged. You just have to find another route to try to get back into research, whether it's trying to network, going to conferences, or even finding different platforms like LinkedIn or Twitter or things like that to be able to find any opening where you might be able to get a foot in the door, per se, right? So
I actually have something else to add to that. If you are outside of the clinical experience or have just graduated, if you know people that are in residency, whether it's in America, Canada, wherever you are, ask them, because they are probably exposed to a lot of patient cases. They have to do a certain number of quality improvement projects or case reports in their year, and they don't have enough time in residency to really commit. So if you know residents, ask them, hey, can I get on board with any research that you have? Really put yourself out there, because there are so many avenues to get that research exposure.
No, that's amazing, because if you don't ask, then you won't know. That's exactly the main thing, right? So that's actually very important to understand. So if we move forward and if we talk about the application itself, so how do you suggest for students to make themselves stand out on the application? Because initially, program directors are going to see just your application. They're not going to see you. That's further on when you get an interview. Their initial impression of you is through your application, right? So how do you make yourself stand out on your application?
It's a really good question, because I don't know the secret on how to stand out. I just know what I did. I loaded my CV, my ERS app, with every single thing that I have done that really made a prominent impact in the medical field. Work experiences. So I actually included an experience that happened in 2008, and I got asked about that. And even though people think that that's a very, very old experience to include, it was a memorable way when I talked about it. How do you make yourself stand out? I think once your application is in and you have really shown yourself off, and make sure you check it grammatically, put it in Grammarly, get people to read it, because, and also don't, with your app, get another company to write your personal statement. It's really insulting that, the program directors are taking their time and then they have to read this personal statement, and they know, trust me, they know if you've written it or you've gotten somebody else to write it. And if you're applying to residency and you can't write your own personal statement, that says something, So don't do that. Grammar, spell check, top to bottom, every single thing. I had a spell check error in my app, and it was like this one little letter, but I was like, oh no. But also, show your best self off. If you won an award, they're going to see that. And I think in addition to your app, send a strong letter of interest. I personally received 3 interviews from a letter of interest. So they might have not seen my application in the beginning. They might have just put it in a pile, like you made the filters, but you haven't got the interview yet. But once I sent these letters of interest, I actually received an interview. So I think that that's a really important way for you to stand out. Don't send it at the time that everybody else sends it. Like, strategize. Like if you wrote your step 3, or if you got like 3 new research projects, then send one, or send one like, not when everybody else sends it.
Fair enough. So that was about how we can make ourselves stand out on the application. Is there anything other than grammar mistakes do you suggest that we shouldn't do on our application? Do you caution us against doing anything?
Plagiarizing. Definitely do not do that. Be unique and don't be like lying on your application. If you haven't done something, then you haven't done it. It's okay. Like whatever you have done, just make it professional. Get people to read it. Don't lie. Don't plagiarize. How can you, I don't know how else. For me, like I can only tell you what I've done. I don't know what program directors and faculty are looking for, but for me, and I can share my CV, I literally listed every single thing I did. The research grants I won, academic awards I won, they'll see that in your first page. So just make it, if you have like 15 volunteer experiences, list them all, list every single thing, I think.
Okay. And do you have any tips for people applying this upcoming math cycle? I'm sure they're tense right now while they're trying to apply. So
it's a stressful time, but if you treat interview season and application season as an actual second job, apart from your like daily life, you will succeed. That's something that I did the second time going in. I attended every single virtual house, open meet and greet. I was present. I was engaged. I made myself known. People then searched me up after those things. I asked valuable questions. So my advice is use this time now to network, to connect. I know we don't think we don't have enough time and we're like, I need to study for step 2. I can't do anything else. So that's what my gap year really allowed me to do. Last year when I applied, I had written step 2 right by the August cut off, and then I was going straight into interview season. And so I didn't really give me that time to be like, I want to attend that virtual meet and greet. I want to, network over here. So use this time not only to study, but be that well-rounded, balanced person that you're advocating for yourself, to other residencies. Use this time, attend a conference if you want to, whether it's virtual or in person. What else will I say? Know that going in, you don't know what's going to happen, right? Like take every single thing one day at a time. If you don't get an interview in the first week, do not panic. A lot of my interviews came in trickling one week after the other, after another. Some came very late. Do not panic. And I would say if you need, get yourself like an interview prep course or practice with people. Like right now is the time to practice with people. I actually just did an interview prep session with somebody earlier today. Practice with people who have matched. Show your CV to people who have matched. talk to people who have matched. Those people will always tell you their keys to success because they have actually succeeded. So yeah, that's my general advice.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go into a little bit of a specific question. Since you've applied and gotten into family medicine, what is your advice for people who are interested into going into family medicine?
Yeah. Okay. So family medicine is an amazing specialty. I'm so excited to be a part of it. I think what's really important is that here you are not just your scores. We family medicine, I say we like I'm somebody sitting on a board or something, but they like to see you are invested in family medicine. What is family medicine to you? What have you done? Whether it's the local community, the global community, even if you volunteered at a blood bank, you volunteered at an orphanage shelter. These are all ways that show to family medicine. You can understand cultural barriers in medical knowledge. You can understand personal barriers in medical knowledge. You can be a patient advocate. You know how to do clinical education. And these are all things that family medicine needs. So really what I suggest to people applying to family medicine, know what the definition of family medicine is, know what the family medicine doctor does, and tailor your app to show that these are all the things that you mimic. For me, it's very important to show clinical education because every single day, family doctors are teaching their patients how to eat better, how to control their sugars, how to do this. And you need to be a great teacher. So those were one of the skills I highlighted on my app. So for any specialty, surgery, derm, define the topic and work backwards. What does it take to be the derm candidate? What does it take to be the family medicine candidate? And for us, I feel like it really they want to see that you are invested in family medicine. You have those FMLORs, you have that hands-on family medicine experience, and it will show in your app.
Okay. And now I'm going from a specific question to a actually very broad question. What is your advice for people that are either thinking to embark on this journey or are already a part of this journey to get a residency in the United States?
Yeah. My best advice for people who are thinking about starting this journey is really evaluate the course that you're going to choose if you decide to go to a foreign medical school or within America. Then see, are you willing to sacrifice all this time, this money, whatever it is, because it will be a sacrifice. And you have to make that mature decision before going in. You cannot jump into this profession because it's just more. It's just so much more. It'll take so much from you. That's my general advice to people choosing medicine. Really evaluate if this is the career for you. People in medicine, I think the most important thing, and something that I wish I did, was being way more proactive earlier on. A lot of my peers were, and I think that that's such a important thing to do. And that's what I did the second time around going back to AUA. I became an ambassador. I became a medical scholar. I was more diverse in the community, not just with my academics. So yeah, really invest yourself. And then what I also would do was in my summer times, do clinical shadowing, observerships, anything that would build my profile. So with medicine, you really have to start early on. And whatever it is that you like to do, add it. Just keep adding it. And you know what? I will say this again, it might be cheesy, but nothing worth having comes easy. It really doesn't. And this will take everything from you, but it will be absolutely so worth it. So work hard now, invest in yourself now, and I promise you it will all pay off just a few years later.
No, that's actually amazing advice because if right now, when you're either part of the journey or when you are trying to get into this journey, it seems like a long road ahead. And you already foresee some of the obstacles that you might come across, but until you're on that journey and until you're hitting those hurdles and obstacles, you don't know just how many of them there are, right?
Exactly.
So it's important to keep in mind that, at the end of the tunnel, there is a light, it might come later, but it is there. And that's something that, it's important to keep in mind because you need to be motivated throughout, right?
And one thing I want to add, one thing that's very valuable is get yourself a strong support system wherever you are and make sure it's a good core group of people that really match your personality and want you to do better. It doesn't have to be one person, two people. It could be as many people or as little people, but wherever you decide to go or wherever you are right now, build that support system for your own mental health, for your own physical health, for whatever it may be.
That's great advice. Thank you. Thank you so much. I just wanted to thank you, Dr. Jain, for being here today and coming as a guest on the Project IMG podcast, which is the voice of international graduates. I also wanted to thank our listeners for tuning in and listening to this episode. This is Shivani Mehta and Dr. Jain signing off. Until the next episode, take care and stay safe.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.